loan book to a private equity fund, and the private equity fund the following day decides that they're going to apply the debtor to work with them to asset manage the portfolio. That's their discretion.
That possibility leaves over an incentive to the debtor to manipulate the sale so that it's undersold. The value is less than what we could have achieved.
No, but reality is, Deputy, is that we have people employed in NAMA, and we make sure that who understand the market and understand what the assets are worth. So therefore, if you have an open market process and you have multiple bidders on the portfolio, you will get the best price for the asset on the basis of this open market, that everybody has the same information. We run a process. We set up a data room. Everybody has access to the information. There is probably very little information, if any, that the debtor would have after.
But isn't there a huge conflict of interest if, say, 5 people are bidding on one property or one portfolio, and they are successful, and then the debtor walks away and joins their company and works on that property outside of NAMA?
Yeah, but we can't control whoever buys the asset, what they do with the asset afterwards.
But I mean,
what we've got to do is be satisfied that we got the best price for the asset, and that we're satisfied to accept responsibility for it.
This goes back to my point. You're pursuing the price on the asset. You're not actually pursuing the debtor for what they might potentially owe to you.
But no,
there's a point at which that relationship breaks.
No, in leading up, if the debtor is working with NAMA at this stage after 4 years, we have squeezed the debtor for everything we can possibly squeeze out of the debtor in terms of his assets. That's the reality. If the debtor hasn't been cooperating with NAMA, then we've taken the asset off the debtor by appointing a receiver if the loan is in default, and we pursue judgment against the debtor. And that's what we have done. So, I mean, the reality is that, some assets we bought, we might have paid 100 for them, and we get 110 back from them now because the market has improved. Another asset we bought for 100, and we only get maybe 85 back because the market has disimproved. But we have to make that decision at a point in time based on the best information we have available to us.
Okay. Is there a need now for a new strategic plan, given the new policy direction from the Minister?
Well, the new policy direction from the Minister will be decided when he publishes his Section 227 report, and that will give direct guidance to the Board of NAMA in terms of what he feels NAMA should do. If he feels NAMA should run out to 2020, that will give us a timeline to work out the assets. If he feels that NAMA should work to 2018 or whatever date it is, then that will inform the Board of NAMA, and that will definitely result in us adopting a new strategic plan to deal with that.
But I mean, it was reported at the beginning of the year that the Minister was considering expediting or instructing that NAMA expedite the sales process.
I don't know. I don't know, Deputy, because the Minister, in any discussions he has with me, and I think he's out with the Chairman can answer for himself, has said that everything is up for consideration as part of his Section 227 review, and he said at our annual report launched 2 days ago that he hopes to have that issued by the time before the summer recess. And I certainly, and I think the Chairman knows no more than that in terms of the Minister's thinking.
No, I think that's the situation. The Minister has made some statements about it, but I mean, at the end of 4 years, it's quite appropriate actually that there should be a look at where NAMA is going, and I think you have to look at it in the context of what has been achieved, of the investor interest in Ireland. The fact we've already been able to accelerate our sales and our debt repayments, and the event of the IBRC liquidation, which is another. So I think all of that is in the mix, but you can be assured, and the Board's already discussed it, Deputy, that when we get the outcome of the Minister's review, that we will be reviewing the strategic plan. We actually review it, in fact, every quarter anyway, on an interim basis, and then every year we have a kind of a major
review. Any intention ahead of that review or anything at the beginning of the year, following discussions that were held at Davos or anything else about what its intentions are?
No, but I mean, as part of what the Minister has said and as part of general conversations, it would be that everything is to be considered, and I think that's... General
conversations with yourself or in the media?
With the Minister.
Yeah. But he has stated that NAMA should complete its work of deleveraging the portfolio as soon as possible.
Yeah,
I think he has
said that at our press conference this week. Yeah. He said, I think the comments that he used, Deputy, was that when he took over as Minister of Finance, when he used to go to Frankfurt, he used to get comments from officials there telling him that there was a big black hole in IBRC and in NAMA, and these were additional contingent liabilities to the state which would be realised. And he said he was glad to be able to say at the press conference that after liquidation of IBRC there will be a surplus, and that NAMA was heading in that direction as well. So he said it was very welcome that the state's contingent liability had gone from 43 billion and be down to 15 billion by the end of the year, because it certainly removed that issue.
And you referenced the fact that the recent Moody's upgrading of Ireland, in that they specifically actually referenced the IBRC liquidation and NAMA's earlier and accelerated bond repayment. I mean, our target at the moment for this year is to have 50% of our senior debt repaid.
2 years ahead of schedule.
The Minister's saying these things, and you're NAMA. Do you not, as a board, go to the Minister and say, look, we're hearing this, can you clarify it, because it's important in how we operate?
But we are, I mean, the review is going on, okay? It was informed, I presume, by the CNAG's review, and informed by views that the NAMA board would convey to the Minister, and we would expect that in that review we will be part of the dialogue, and that then sometime, the Minister has indicated it will be June or before the summer recess at any stage, that he will go to government with the outcome of his review.
Yeah.
But we you know, we would have engagement with the department. We'd have engagement with the Minister on that. So we would. So we have, if we have views of a board, and we do, then as part of that review, we will convey them.
And the Minister is fully aware in terms of that we are accelerating sales and that we are 2 years ahead of schedule, and he's very comfortable with that.
But you're accelerating sales at the moment based on the 2012 plan. It's not as if there's been a new direction.
Every year, as the Chairman says, we do a comprehensive review, and in the January, start of February each year, once we know what the previous year end is looking like, and we, as part of that review, we look at where the market is and how much assets we can realise and the timing decisions, and all that forms part of our strategy.
It's back to the point I made earlier, and this would never goes down well with sort of purists who say you should have a strategic plan and you then stick to it. The reality is, because of where we are, the type of agency we are, and the volatility in the market and investor interest in Ireland, we have to be opportunistic as well. So we would have a strategic plan, and it's very, very important, but we would never be absolutely hidebound if the circumstances change. I mean, the Northern Ireland portfolio, which you refer to, is a very, very good example of that. It certainly wouldn't have been a strategy of ours last year to sell that portfolio in its entirety, but there was an interest expressed in doing that, and it was very appropriate for us to look at that and say, well, look, could this be a good outcome for NAMA? Could it be a good outcome in terms of Northern Ireland as well? And so you know, if that opportunity comes, you certainly jump at it, you examine it. If it's viable, you go with it.
In terms of property disposals then to come, I mean, we spoke before in the committee about the assets that you've been disposing of up to date, the higher value assets abroad and not so many assets in Ireland. And we've spoken about looking ahead at how you achieve the targets you need to achieve in terms of repayment of the bond debt. But if you're to, and I've expressed concerns about the ability to do that given the mix that's left. But if you're to accelerate that now, and given the CNAG's report, he seems a bit sceptical as well that you'd be able to achieve that it's overly ambitious.
With Deputy, we constantly have to be we constantly have to be ambitious. We're very comfortable that we'll meet. You know, when the CNAG's reference report was started 2012 strategic plan, at that stage we planned to redeem 15 billion of our debt by the end of 2016. Now we'll have 15 billion of our debt redeemed by the end of 2014, which is 2 years ahead of schedule. And to hit the next sort of target, we probably would sell 17 billion euros worth of assets between now and the end of 2016. And in terms of that, in terms of profile of that, it'll be about 7 billion worth of assets in Ireland. It'll be probably about close to 7 billion worth of assets, residual assets we've left in the UK, and thankfully a lot of those assets left in the UK are still in London and the South East, where there's still a very high demand for assets and prices are good. we have about 2 billion in the rest of the world, and obviously the Northern Ireland portfolio, which will make up close to €1 billion on that. So that would bring us to our 17 billion euros, and we're really reasonably highly confident in terms of achieving that. And the reason for that is that when you look at our assets in Ireland, 92% of our assets are in Dublin locations: Dublin, Cork, Limerick, and Galway, and the commuter belt.
I mean, it's good to be ambitious, but I don't think that was the point the CNAG was making. I think he was saying that maybe it wasn't realistic.
Well, I think the reality is that, just to give you the facts that's on the ground here, in 2006 there was 3 billion, at the peak of the market, there's 3 billion worth of commercial sales in the market. That dropped to 99 million in 2009. It's recovered then during the next few years, and last year it hit something like, I think it was over 2 billion euros. This year they're predicting that there'll be 4 billion euros of sales in the Irish market, which is even higher than the peak in 2006. And we certainly would see that. We already have sold in the first 5 months of this year of close to 1.1 billion worth of euros of Irish assets where the transactions have completed, and we probably have other portfolios in the market, but there's huge demand for those. So we would predict that we probably would make probably over 2 billion worth of sales in the Irish market this year, which is at the end of 2012 we had only sold 800 million worth of assets from between 2010 and 2012 in the Irish market, and we'll have probably 3 times that level in 2014.
So what's the level in 2014 you're hoping to achieve?
Somewhere over 2 billion.
Somewhere over 2 billion in 2014.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'll move on then, maybe if I might come back a little later, Chair. But there was just one other area I wanted to jump to in relation to the review of the disposals to date. Just a couple of quick questions. The sales of 12.1 million of 6 properties that were not openly marketed went to state bodies in Ireland and Great Britain. I mean, is there something in the Act that allows the state to acquire an asset from NAMA without it being marketed?
No. Well, the board published its own policy in 2010 that if a state body wanted to acquire an asset like Department of Education for a school site or a local authority for whatever reason, things like this, that we would accept, we would get an independent valuation of the site, and if they pay that value for the site at that particular point in time, we would give them first option to acquire that site. That's what happened in those instances.
And also those state bodies in Great Britain?
Yeah. Well, in some instances they were just, again, you might have a site where there's they're looking at for a school or whatever the case is, and you might own the rest of the land, and as part of the planning condition, you probably have you probably have to give the school site anyway, so you might as well do it with grace and accept that.
Is that an actual example of?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And just my final question, Chair. In relation then, and sorry, this is on page 57 of the CNAG's report, and it's 26 properties where there was no evidence of open marketing. There's a statement here: NAMA stated that it engaged with the eventual purchaser who had previously expressed interest in acquiring NAMA-controlled assets. This is the property for 27 million. How had that purchaser previously expressed an interest? I mean, do they approach you?
Yeah. Well, part of our job at the start of NAMA between 2010 and 2012 was to try and attract foreign capital to invest in Irish assets. So this particular US fund with multi-billion of money to invest, decided that it wanted to invest in Europe. It came to visit us. It said it had bought its first property in Europe in La Défense in Paris, and that it would be interested in buying property in Dublin. It saw it as a good commercial opportunity to buy property in Dublin when nobody else was buying it. That's what they do. And they said, and they became aware, because they had visited a number of agents in Dublin, that we had just recently sold this particular building for 27 million. We had openly marketed it for a long period of time. And the purchaser, who went into exclusive mode, tried to price chip us at the day of the closing.
I don't need to go to the details.
Yeah. But so he came to visit us, and he said if that building became available, if things this, we'd be interested in it, and any other building of similar quality. And when the property, the exclusive bidder withdrew from the process, we offered this property to this American fund, and this American fund came within 3 days and closed the transaction at the price that we had sold it for originally after open market.
Thank you. Just my final question. I know, Chair, but are you closer to certain purchasers than others?
No.
And is there an obligation on NAMA to declare gifts and hospitality received?
Yes, all gifts and hospitalities.
We're
not allowed to accept gifts of hospitality.
So, a big let's say venture fund comes in and decides to take people from NAMA out to lunch to discuss a range of portfolios, and they pick up the tab.
Yeah, we don't allow people to accept gifts of hospitality.
But is that scenario possible?
It is possible, but we have a policy,
happen?
a staff policy, as I said, there are code of conduct for our staff that people working in NAMA aren't allowed to accept such things. So the reality is that that's not the way we operate.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.